once you first find out about your awakening or the consciousness and the lies of this world and this earth, it starts to really mess with your mind, and you feel like you don't want to do anything because you recognize everything is almost a system that has been ran upon people. It's the matrix. But what you have to realize is that you actually look at it like you have the advantage over this particular situation. You know what to look for. You know how to read energy. You know how to see who people truly are based on your feelings and your intuition, and you get more powerful and knowledgeable about the true power within you, so that way you can navigate through this matrix. Because if you're still here in the physical, it's for a greater cause. So it's best to live within this matrix but function at a high level, so you can make sure that it doesn't drive you crazy and go schizophrenic or wild or something. You're in control, and now you have to control the matrix yourself.
I'm going to be talking to you today about what it actually requires to create your own reality. Now, I know that a lot of people sometimes say that our Farsight projects sometimes have a bit of a negative tint to it because we're finding out what the reptilians are doing or what this is doing or what that's doing. It's not the way, folks. The reality is we're trying to guide the entire planet to a positive future. Now, that is the reality we are trying to create. So some people who are saying, yeah, but you're always bringing up these negative things, how can you create the positive reality? That's because you've been duped. You create the positive reality not by ignoring the negative things. You create the positive reality by seeing everything clearly. There's been a whole bunch of disinformation that has come out, especially, I must say, especially within the channeling community, that has focused on not having negative thoughts. So you just blind yourself to everything that's going on. And that is honestly an attempt to try to keep you within a prison system. Now please, just let me explain. Let me explain it for you. Manipulative ETs could never prevent humanity from recognizing that you do create your own reality. So they had to acknowledge that, but on the same side, they didn't want people to take it to a point where they saw what everything was going on and created a really positive reality. So the reality is, you have to understand the physics of what they're talking about, they're alluding to. And I'm going to describe that in the second part in a way that's very accessible to absolutely everyone. You'll understand why, on the level of physics, you do create your own reality. But let's get to some basic introductory parts first. The idea that you create your own reality is an idea that has been really brought up by a lot of beings who are channeled. Now, at the end of this presentation, I'm going to be talking about a very nice bit of channeled information coming through by, say, the Abraham entity by Esther Hicks. But I'm going to get to that at the very end. But basically, that entity basically talks about the stuff the way you need to talk about it. But first, let's get to everything else. When people talk about creating your own reality, in most cases, and in almost all channeled cases, with extraterrestrials coming in and talking about it, they never fully explain it. And they never fully explain it for a reason. It's always a situation where they're saying, you create your own reality, so you have to have the good vibrations of the reality and you need to think positive and all that stuff. And then when someone asks them about something else, they almost push this person down, like, why are you doing this? You shouldn't be doing that. You should be creating your own reality. You should be thinking the positive thought. Just disengage from all that negative stuff. They're doing that for a reason. You see, creating your own reality is true. On the level of physics, it actually is true. And you can create your own very positive reality. You can do that, but you have to understand what's involved in doing that. It's not simple. It's not just push away negative thoughts. It's not simple. And it's often misrepresented in order to control very naive populations. Okay. Now, the manipulative ETs often through channeled information, that you create your own reality by having these positive vibrations because they don't want people to ask the hard questions. It's a form of psychological warfare, honestly, that ETs have mastered over millions of years in order to control populations. Because eventually populations figure out that you do control your own reality. So if they're going to figure that out, they want to, the manipulative ETs want you to make that reality the way they want it to be, not the way you might want it to be. The idea is pushed that people should only focus on the positive thoughts or vibrations. And this actually spreads the fear that people could create their own bad reality by thinking about it. Now just think about that, what that means. That means that whenever something happens that's bad, then the person will say, oh, well, I must have created that. I was responsible for that. I created that bad reality. I brought this on myself. And so they end up blaming themselves for having bad thoughts. They blame themselves for doing it bad and having the bad reality, and they think they must double down and have better thoughts. That's part of the prison system. You see, it constantly, continually reinforces the prison concept within human thinking. People think that they caused all the bad stuff and thus they deserve to be in the prison or whatever situation they find themselves in. They ultimately say they should be here because they brought it on themselves. That's what the ETs want, the bad ETs, not the good ETs. There's good ones, but the bad ones, that's what they want you to believe. They want you to believe that you deserve everything that you get because you just brought it on yourself with the bad thoughts. Listen, folks, honestly, please hear this. You were not given a brain just to not use it. There is absolutely nothing preventing people from seeing the truth when they're creating their own reality. There is no reason at all for you to not see half of reality when you're creating your own reality. You don't have to have blinders on like a horse that can't see to the side because they have these blinders on. You don't have to have blinders on in order to create your own reality. To create a reality that does not require, to create your own reality does not require people to not see reality. Nothing in all the universe requires you to not think clearly, to not see clearly. Nothing in the universe does that. Now, ignorance does not yield freedom. It yields slavery. Now let's think about these extraterrestrials who you've heard channeled many times, and they talk about this, don't get involved into the negative thought. Always envision your own positive thought. Just disengage from the negative stuff. Just think about that. Obviously, the extraterrestrials know the negative stuff. They acknowledge it even when they're questioned. When someone says, well, what about this? What about the reptilians? They acknowledge that they know the whole stuff, and they say, but you shouldn't be doing that. They almost battle you down, chase you down, and say, no, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be focusing on the positive. But they obviously know the negative, and it's not hurting them. Did everyone hear what I just said? The extraterrestrials that are saying focus on only the positive, they obviously know the negative, and it's not hurting them. You get it? If it's not hurting them, why should it hurt you to know the same stuff? Do you see the logic here? If it's not hurting them to know the negative stuff, why are they not telling you the negative stuff? It's obviously not going to hurt you to know the truth either. So creating a reality requires that people see what they don't want in order to know what they do want. Do you understand? You have to know what you don't want in order to know what you do want.
What difference does it make? What difference does it make? Yeah, that's their favorite line. Got a lot of people, what difference does it make? You can't figure out what difference it makes? If you can't figure out what difference it makes that the people running your world have fucking lied to you over and over your whole life, if you can't figure out that someone lying to you is trying to control you, suppressing of information, of knowledge, is control. Deception of information and knowledge is a form of control. So what difference does it make? It makes a big difference, because once they start omitting information or lying about information about where you live, they're doing it to control you. Period. Why am I having to explain this to critical thinkers?
If you're trying to figure out what you should do, you have to know what you don't want. in order to know what you do want. If you blind out negative stuff, you don't know what you don't want. Oh, I don't want to think about that. I'm focusing just on the positive stuff, the good vibrations. Then you don't know what you don't want, and that means it's impossible for you to navigate to what you do want. So seeing the bad side of things is absolutely necessary to creating a better reality. So you want to create a good, positive reality. If you don't look and see the total reality that's there, the negative as well as the positive, it's impossible for you to get the positive reality. That's what the negative ETs want you to avoid. They want you to avoid creating a positive reality that you like. Now, you are always going to create your own reality. The question is, are you going to create the reality that you want or the reality that they want?
In 1984, Sally Fields delivered an iconic line during her Best Actress acceptance speech for an Academy Award. People have been repeating this line over and over for decades. However, the Sally Fields who said, "You like me, you really like me," existed in another reality. In this reality, we have a Sally Field who said, "You like me, right now, you like me."
And I can't deny the fact that you like me. Right now, you like me.
I guess this means you like me. You really like me.
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 You like me. You really like me. You like me. You really like me. You like me? You really like me?
As a friend.
You like me. You really like me.
You like me. You really like me.
You love me. You really love me.
Like as Sally Field said, you really like me. You really like us.
It is a great day, and you like me. You really like me.
Please stop that. We love you.
And I can't deny the fact that you like me. Right now, you like me.
You like me. You really like me. Never gets old. Sort of does a little bit, yes. It's starting to twinkle in the edges, that joke, but I still like it.
During her acceptance speech, Fields said, quote, "I can't deny the fact that you like me now. You like me." Didn't you say you really, really like me in there somewhere as well?
And I'd like to say thank you to you. Because you like me. You really like me.
Of all things. So yeah, they've thrown a monkey wrench into this whole Wizard of Oz classic. And when the flying monkeys come get them, I guess having a monkey wrench makes sense. And it seems like they're making monkeys out of us because, yeah, we remember how things were, and it's not this way.
turn back if I were you. I believe there's spooks around here.
That's ridiculous. Spooks. That's silly.
Don't you believe in spooks?
No. Why, oh! Are you all right?
It seems that unusual phenomena are continuing to occur in the vicinity of Geneva near the Large Hadron Collider. According to a set of images and videos, strange clouds appear over the LHC, which has sent the internet into a frenzy, suggesting the enigmatic phenomenon could in fact be a portal to another dimension. The jaw-dropping images taken above CERN's Large Hadron Collider are truly fascinating, but are they connected to the mystery experiments that are taking place below the surface? And is it really possible for CERN to open up portals to another dimension? The images alone with a fancy title have proposed all kinds of speculation. Apparently the images were taken on June 24th, the exact same day CERN was conducting an experiment called AWAKE. The AWAKE experiment, which is also known as the Proton-Driven Plasma Wakefield Acceleration Experiment, aims to use a whole new method that will get particles going much faster in a shorter amount of time. However, results of this experiment are not expected until 2018. CERN is the world's most powerful particle accelerator placed inside a ring-shaped 27-kilometer long underground tunnel located at the Swiss and the French border. The facility was built between 1998 and 2008 and allows physicists to test various theories. In the past, it is well known that CERN has carried out experiments creating artificial clouds to better understand global warming. The video that caused a massive uproar on social networks was uploaded to YouTube on June 27th by YouTube channel Freedom Fighter Times. Called "What Portal Did CERN Open Now? Strange Clouds Hover Above the LHC." The video has ignited a massive debate whether or not CERN scientists are actually opening up portals to another dimension. But do another dimension actually exist? Or have users on the internet gone too far now?
New images of bizarre cloud formations above the CERN Large Hadron Collider, or LHC, could be shock-proof. The world's biggest experiment is about to tear open a portal to another dimension. That is if you are inclined to believe the latest conspiracy theory surrounding the monster machine. The two images show cloud and light over the LCH at Geneva, on the French-Swiss border, and were taken on June 24th. The same day CERN scientists began a new AWAKE experiment to change the way it smashes particles together. A film entitled "What Portal Did CERN Open Now? Strange Clouds Hover Above the LHC" was made by Freedom Fighter Times, a religious conspiracy theory channel on YouTube, and raises major concerns about what the LCH is being used for. The narrator of the video of CERN, otherwise known as European Organization for Nuclear Research, claims the two images had been forensically researched and been found to be genuine and not edited. He said, "It is not a background you can get on Google. It is an actual picture taken on June 24, 2016. It is directly over CERN, and the cloud formation is very interesting. The energy that is being produced, you can actually see that minus the lightning strikes." He asked viewers if they were concerned about CERN, and advised they should be. He said, "How much energy did CERN pull into itself? Is this why the weather is so crazy all over the planet? There are many other colliders all over the world. The video showed the CERN schedule for the LCH, which showed an experiment called Awake was due to begin on June 24th. The narrator said, "Is it a coincidence they had just started the Awake experiment?" This insane ball of energy was directly over the LHC. Some people reported see faces in it. It is amazing they keep messing with nature and denying it. What is in the cloud? Some say it is lightning or a massive ball of energy. The amount of energy pulling from nature into the collider itself, you can actually see it. What portals and doors are being opened in this cloud? Some of the conspiracy theories about CERN have included that it is being used as a portal to allow Satan to return to Earth. Last October, Express.co.uk exclusively revealed claims from former Whitby Town Councillor Simon Parkes, that he held a global meditation to prevent this happening. The LHC is the world's largest and most powerful machine and is actually used to collide particles at close to the speed of light in a bid to discover more about physics and the possibility of parallel universes. The curious machine, developed across a 16-mile ring of superconducting magnets, has had critics before amid claims it could inadvertently create a black hole that may swallow up the world, but some of these wild conspiracies are among the strangest to date. CERN, of course, denies trying to change our weather, but it has carried out experiments to create artificial clouds to better understand global warming, which fuels the conspiracies. The official line on what the Awake experiments are about is to develop a new type of accelerator to cut the size of the huge particle physics experiments down by a factor of 100 or more so they can be carried out on tabletops. The Awake experiment, also known as the proton-driven plasma wake field acceleration experiment, will use a whole new method that will get particles going much faster in a shorter amount of time. Results are not expected until 2018.
I wanted to bring this one up. This one is one that was sent to me by one of my listeners, and I wanted to bring it up to you guys here in the community to see what you guys thought, see what you remember in regards to this set of biblical verses where the Matrix is referred. So in the Bible, this is going to be specifically referring to the King James version of the Bible with reference to these verses. The other versions of the Bible have not changed as far as I was able to find. So the other versions have the text differently. The King James Bible is the only one that's different now compared to the others. So anyways, Exodus 13:12. That thou hast set apart unto the Lord all that openeth the matrix, and every firstling that cometh out of a beast which thou hast, the males shall be the Lord's. Then we have Exodus 13:15, which says, And it came to pass, when Pharaoh would hardly let us go, that the Lord slew all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beast. Therefore I sacrifice to the Lord all that openeth the matrix, being males, but all the firstborn of my children I redeem. Exodus 34:19 says, All that openeth the matrix is mine, and every firstling among thy cattle, whether ox or sheep, that is male. Numbers 3:12, And I, behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel, instead of all the firstborn that openeth the matrix among the children of Israel. Therefore the Levites shall be mine. Numbers 18:15 says, Everything that openeth the matrix in all flesh, which they bring unto the Lord, whether it be of men or beast, shall be thine. Nevertheless, the firstborn of man shalt thou surely redeem, and the firstling of unclean beasts shalt thou redeem. Now, as you guys can see in the next screenshot here, the online etymology dictionary shows that the word matrix is an old Latin word that came into circulation in the 1400s. The King James Version of the Bible, of course, was published in the 1600s. It was 1611 that version of the Bible was first published. So the word was around during that period of time, and the word does mean pregnant animal. However, it is a very uncommon term, and it's an uncommonly referenced term during that period of time. They used the word womb during that time period. So why the Bible now has matrix there as opposed to womb, I'm not sure.
And know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. That read, and there is nothing wrong with my memory. That read, and it should read, I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. It should read, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. And here it's been altered.
Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge.
An interesting comment was made, and somebody said to me, I heard somebody say, now where's Mandela? Well, Mandela's dead.
The question is, are you going to create the reality that you want or the reality that they want?
Okay, you guys, I just found something out, and it's blowing my mind. Some of you may already know this, so don't come in the comments like, you didn't know that? No, I didn't. You know why? Because I live in the United States of America, where we have been brainwashed and not been taught about real history. Okay, if you guys go to the first video on this playlist, the simulation, I filmed it on January 11th, 2021. And it was showing how all of the times were different on every clock, every digital clock. My boyfriend at the time was working. He had like 3 computers in front of him. They all said different times. His phone said a different time. He came upstairs to show me my phone said a different time. All the times were messed up. In my comments, people were like, what about analog clocks? As you can see, I have analog clocks. So I went to check those, and those were off too. So I was like, there's been a weird shift in the universe because the ball also didn't drop on time at the New York ball. It was like a minute late or something. I was like, we've definitely shifted dimensions. Something's going on. Look at this. I recently came across a video talking about how the calendar is supposed to have 13 months, but the Gregorian calendar changed it, which is the calendar we follow today. So I see this comment, come to Ethiopia, you will see what you are saying. We have 13 months within a year. So someone commented, right now we're in 2014, year of Mercury. Today's date is Thursday, the 22nd of March, 2014. Our new year is on the 1st of September. And I was like, wait, they're living in 2014 and we're living in 2022? Is that why they say that all time is simultaneous, like past, present, and future, we're all living in it at once? But then I saw this comment. So if we're in 2014, according to your calendar, 2020 Gregorian calendar corresponds to 2012, your calendar, when the truth started to come out and people woke. So the Mayans were right. COVID really put everyone in 2020. Using your calendar, that means that the year 2012 was the end of the world. Mind blown. Okay, so of course I had to look up when our calendar started. It was in 1582. Ethiopian calendar started around AD 400. So they are obviously way more correct than we are. How many years did we lose switching to the Gregorian calendar? 8 years. We're lost in translation when the switch to the Gregorian calendar was made to the 15th century. And if you guys remember, the Mayan calendar says that the end of the world would be on December 21st, 2012. And even according to the Julian calendar, that would be on January 21st, 2020, when COVID was at its peak. So I'm freaking out in the middle of the night, and I message my dear friend, JK Ultra, Jen. If you guys aren't following her, please go follow her, who's super into all this stuff. And I was like, girl, I'm sure you know this, but did you know this? And her and I are both freaking out because we didn't know this. So she goes and converts what day is December 21st, 2012 in the Ethiopian calendar. What does it calculate to us? December 31st, 2019. So the last day of the world, according to the Mayan calendar, was on December 21st, 2012, if we had kept up with the original calendar. But because we switched it, it was December 31st, 2019. So in 2020, the new world started. So we have already shifted into a new dimension. And this is why everything is so different. This makes so much sense. Are you guys freaking out? Because I'm freaking out.
Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is the second part of my previous video where I explained an alternative view of human history and our place within it. If you haven't seen part 1, there's a link in the description below. In this video, I'll go over what I refer to as the dual timelines, and then I'll share some additional thoughts. Now that you're familiar with the timeline I explained in part 1, we're going to use a more simplified version for this video. You'll see that I'm throwing out a second resurrection date of 1820, but the exact date has not yet been confirmed. So to begin, I believe that it's been easy for the enemy to deceive us about anything on the before Christ or BC timeline, because conveniently nothing is ever dated from this period. The people did not keep track of the year because there was really no anchor point. We can be told pretty much anything about artifacts from this time. I believe that the practice of keeping track of the year truly began in year 1 of the millennial kingdom. I believe this is the true meaning of AD, or the Latin phrase Anno Domini, which means in the year of the Lord. There's usually some variation of this phrase in old books and manuscripts. Because of the large amount of dated artifacts that have survived from the millennial kingdom, Satan has had to provide many cover stories for all of the evidence he couldn't destroy. He has told us that the phrase Anno Domini, or in the year of the Lord, means from the birth of Jesus. However, I believe that the true year 1 is the beginning of Jesus' kingdom here on earth. Since this period would last just 1,000 literal years, there was a reason to keep track of time, as you could say it serves as a countdown. During the kingdom, a 3-digit dating system was used, usually preceded by the letter I. It is believed that this letter I stands for Isus or Jesus, which means Jesus in Greek and Latin. There seems to be several other variations of the spelling and pronunciation of Jesus' name just within Latin alone, as well as other languages. Sometimes there are other characters that precede the 3-digit date, such as a J or lowercase I, as well as unfamiliar characters that may be derived from Greek, Aramaic, or Hebrew. One of the best ways I've found for finding examples of a non-numeric character in the year is by looking at genuine coins that have survived from the millennial kingdom. Here we have a coin that we would be told is from the year 1621. However, we see that the character in the first digit is different from the numeral 1 in the last digit, and therefore we can conclude that the first digit is not a numeral 1. Here we have another coin that we would be told is from the year 1700, but obviously the character in the first digit does not resemble a numeral 1, and there is a large space separating it from the 3-digit year. We can deduce that this coin is not from 1700, but the year 700 of the kingdom. Here we have another more subtle example, but we can see that the relief of the letter I in the date is more refined and congruent with the other letters, while the numerals are more consistent with each other. Again, we would be told that this artifact is from 1890, but I would determine the date on this coin reads I-890, meaning year 890 of the kingdom of Jesus. There are many more examples, and you'll have no trouble finding your own. It's one of those things where once you see it, you can't unsee it. Dating coins and other artifacts can be tricky, because beginning around the so-called 1800s, we begin to see artifacts that have been created by the enemy with a genuine numeral 1 in the first digit of the date. This is around the time that Satan was released from his prison and began the timeline deception. He began inserting false dates into all kinds of objects, including backdating inscriptions in books, on monuments and architecture, various works of art, and more. How exactly he pulled this off, I couldn't easily tell you. Lastly, one final example. If we had an object or event that was dated with the number 1900, that would be over here on the timeline, in our little season. But if we found an object that was dated I-900, that would actually fall back here, in the late kingdom. Conversely, if we have a pre-reset date such as 1500, that is generally the same year as I-500. If it seems a little confusing, well, it was meant to be, but you'll get the hang of it. In addition to the numeric dating system, the year was also commonly denoted in what we call Roman numerals. I have a feeling that perhaps Roman numerals are to be interpreted a little differently than what we've been told, but that's not something I'll be investigating right now. If you're someone who researches these sorts of things, then you're aware of what is regarded as the 1,000 years of added history that's been injected into our timeline. In all actuality, it appears to be about 800 to 850 years. I believe the entire reason that Satan has added approximately 800 years into our timeline is to once again provide a cover story for the things he couldn't destroy. As I showed just a couple examples of, there are innumerable artifacts that have the letter I or J preceding the year. We are told that an artifact dated I-500 would be the year 1500, but by doing so, a lot of fake and exaggerated history will need to be added in. This is all in a huge effort to hide the millennial kingdom from the people of our time. The more you learn about the true nature of our past, the more profoundly obvious it is that Jesus Christ is the ultimate truth, and it would definitely be a lot harder to go out and deceive the nations if we all understood we were riding off the coattails of Christ's kingdom. So with that being said, I believe that we're actually in approximately the year 1200. A more precise date can only be pinpointed by figuring out the exact year in the false timeline that the so-called reset took place. If year 1 truly begins with the start of the millennial kingdom, then 1,000 years have passed, plus the 200 or so years that we are already into the little season, putting us in approximately the year 1200. If we were to continue to base time off of the birth of Christ, then you would just add 70 years. This is how I see things for now, and I hope this helps you understand the dating system and how the two timelines relate to each other. Now I'm going to go through some additional thoughts and questions. In part 1, I said that the saints go up to heaven at the end of the kingdom. I said this to keep things simple at the time, but I actually think that this may not be the case. The Bible states that the armies will surround the camp of the saints and the beloved city, indicating that they're here on earth somewhere. Perhaps the camp of the saints is located in a region we aren't allowed to explore. In part 1, I talked about the second resurrection and how those who took part in it were simply referred to as the rest of the dead. I'm going to describe this part in just a little more detail. I believe that these people lived before Christ was ever born, therefore they did not get the chance to make the choice of whether to accept or reject Christ. Accepting Christ is the only way to be grafted back into the spirit realm. It is an indelible law of the universe. So these people who lived in the time before Christ had to be resurrected and given the chance to make this choice. This is the only logical theory that I've been able to surmise. It is my personal opinion that no one alive at this current time is part of that group. But then again, who knows? I haven't found anything in the Bible so far that indicates where the mortals at the end of the millennial kingdom go. One might assume that they keep on living into the little season, just as those who survived the tribulation kept on living as normal into the kingdom. But on the contrary, the early historical evidence often seems to point to the idea that the new people completely replaced the old people. However, it seems like there would be no continuity at all if one group was completely swapped out for another. Again, I'm honestly not clear on what exactly happened during the transition at the end of the kingdom. As we re-examine this period in time, I know that many Protestants will take issue with the depiction of the Catholic Church and the iconography associated with it. Since I became a Christian, which was in my adult life, I formulated the opinion that Catholicism was some sort of bizarre mixture between Christianity and paganism, and that many of these practices and beliefs were not biblical. I was also simultaneously perplexed as to how this belief system that supposedly had it all wrong created all of the most beautiful cathedrals and artwork. I was disappointed that all of the best works of art and architecture had to be off limits to me. However, I have completely changed my mind about that as I've gained a higher understanding of our past. I have separated the reputation of the modern-day Catholic Church from what was actually the evolution of Christendom through the messianic reign of Jesus Christ himself. The Catholic Church, or whatever it may have been called during that time, appears to be the most prestigious wing of the governmental system during the kingdom. Its higher offices, if not all of its offices, appear to be occupied by saints. It is the antithesis to the idea of separation of church and state. Furthermore, the belief systems of Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy both incorporate the new class of beings, the saints, who are the very first of their kind. They're like our big brothers and sisters who graduated before us, and they've played a part in this world ever since. These belief systems that were developed during the Millennial Kingdom give us insight on how they play a role in our lives. The saints did not yet exist in the times of the Old and New Testament, so that's why there's nothing in there about them as different spiritual entities. The timeline deception has created a chasm between two sides of the same coin. As Christians, we know to be very careful with the spirit realm, so I'm not saying to jump straight into anything. But after discovering the true nature of our past, I have naturally begun to fall in line with what is generally considered to be Catholicism. Conversely, if you already subscribe to the general ideas of Catholicism, with this new revelation, you're likely going to understand your own beliefs and where they come from on a much deeper level. You will see that the Millennial Kingdom is rife with symbolism that you may find off-putting. However, I have begun to re-examine these things and be open-minded to the idea that they meant something else entirely, or that the characters may not be guilty of their crimes. During the time that we live in, or the little season, many of God's holy symbols and institutions have been usurped by the enemy, and thus their reputations have been sullied. I have begun to make the distinction that they had a different meaning within God's kingdom, and now have the opposite connotation within the little season. Lastly, one of the biggest questions that you may have is why are the so-called Greek gods omnipresent throughout a Christian empire? I have some theories on how they fit in, and I'm looking forward to making videos about this in the near future. I don't want to spoil the fun, but know that I'll be addressing this question soon. So now that we have a good foundation laid, I'm looking forward to covering a range of topics from this perspective. I hope to share the Millennial Kingdom with you, as during the onset of our new abnormal, I have found solace in exploring Tartaria. By gaining a deeper understanding of our past, I constantly learn new things about God, the spirit realm, and our true nature as human beings. I believe that all of the incredible works of art and architecture created during this time were not only for the people of the kingdom, but for the people of our time too. Furthermore, it gives us a glimpse into the aesthetical tastes of God himself, and gives us a sneak peek into the splendor of what we will be building and exploring on the new earth. In my opinion, this is a wonderful place to focus our truth-seeking inclinations, for the world at large will always be nonsensical and upside down until the last day.
The question is, are you going to create the reality that you want or the reality that they want?
You want what's fake because what's fake have overridden what's real. This is the matrix that I'm talking about. They're depriving you of your senses. Your hearing is only at a certain hertz. That's why if you get a dog whistle and you blow a dog whistle, you will see the dog start barking in the neighborhood, but you don't hear the whistle, showing you that you are already limited by your sensory senses. Your brain is already guessing and guesstimating by the senses because the senses is already stuck in a matrix. They have taken this matrix and put you in another matrix. You see that? Look, y'all, check this out. The sensory senses make all things validated in the external environment. See that you cannot validate anything outside of you without your senses. How you know something look good is because you can see it. How you know something tastes good is because you can taste it. How you know something feel good to you because you can feel it. How you know something hear good is because you can hear it. What if I can get between the messengers, between your sensory senses, and I can put my own information in there? That will keep you completely asleep to what's really going on in the outside world. And that's what's happening with Africans. That's what's happening with Africans in America, Africans in Europe, Africans in Britain, Africans in Australia, Africans everywhere globally. We have been hijacked. They have hijacked hijacked our consciousness. See that it all changes our senses. That's the reason why you feel that shrimp and steak and lobster is actually the rich man food, but really the rich and wealthy man food is fruitarianism, eating fruits that's picked from the tree or eating food that you grew from your own land. That's the reason why you feel buying a mansion instead of buying acres and building on those acres is more equivalent to being free, because they have changed your senses by sensory deprivation. They deprived you of true information and then hijacked your consciousness, thinking in your cognitive entities, dang, I want a pizza. So now you go get the pizza. When you know that your spiritual entity knows that this food is bad for you, but they hijack the senses and it changes you from your actuality and reality to a different holographic fake reality. So now, even though spiritually and consciously you know that you're eating wrong foods, you have become addicted to the fake world and addicted to the fake food, because there's natural fruits and vegetables out here growing, but due to the programming and them hijacking your consciousness and tapping into your senses, now all of a sudden you want what's bad for you when you know it's bad for you, but for some reason you can't help it because your senses have been hijacked. Same thing when it comes to your taste. They put all different types of salts and what you would call neurotoxin sugars. When they take all of the carbon out of the sugar and they make it in a high fructose corn syrup and they bake it inside of your candy and they put it inside of your foods, and then you taste these things and they alter your taste state. They alter your taste buds, or what we're going to call your taste sensory senses. See, they're depriving you of your senses, y'all. Same thing with cigarettes. When you smoke cigarettes, it burns out your taste buds. It burns out your smell. It takes away your senses. When you drink alcohol, it burns out your taste buds. So now you're looking for something to have an artificial taste, so you run and you go get on the cupcakes. You run and you need candy. You need pieces of gum. You need sugar to keep you stimulated, because the real universe have been deprived. You hijack consciousness. It puts you in a sleep state, and that sleep state make you dream because you hate that your consciousness have been hijacked from you. So you create an illusion of freedom, and that's the reason why you spend your money on things that don't matter. That's the reason why you're spending your money on all these different designer clothes when you haven't went sovereign yet, when you haven't bought land to grow your own food and to grow your own crops. And that's why you really don't even give a hell about doing all these things, because you stuck up in the matrix, because they have hijacked your consciousness and embedded their information to make you a consumer. Think about it.
Give you a little bit of a summation of a chapter in this book called The Ghost in the Machine, and it's based upon the brain research of Sir John Eccles that received a Nobel Prize for his research in the brain. And what he proved with scientific tests is that the brain does not create thought, but that thought activates action in your brain. Think about that. The brain does not originate thoughts, but thoughts come from outside of the brain.
The question is, are you going to create the reality that you want, or the reality that they want?
Freak the fuck out in 2 seconds. 2 fucking seconds. Okay, I parked on floor fucking 5, okay? I could have swore I parked like in one of these, no. And then I did my little key thing. All my shit's over there. Actually, I don't know where I left it. Great. Anyway, my car is right fucking here, okay? Brady is right here. Down, okay? So this is up, this is up. So if I just kept going and took a little turn over there, you go up and it's there. So you would assume this means down, right? Okay? Don't move, Brady, don't move. So I'm going down. I'm going down. You would not believe how many times I've gone up and down this fucking floor, okay? We're going down. I'm sprinting now, okay? Watch, because look what happens. Look what happens. Where are the cars? Where's my fucking car? Where is he?
I'm gonna throw this knife at it.
Are you crazy?
Make it work.
Stop it.
Why is it not even moving?
I don't know why it's not moving. It's just stuck there. Stuck there.
Making deliveries, and what is this? There's a floating broom. Look, it's just floating. Like, seriously, there's no wire, there's nothing it's connected to. It's what is that? Seriously, it's just and it's moving too.
Even someone who is just getting familiarized with the Matrix theory will start doubting what's real. That's when he sees this footage of a mirror image that appears to be disloyal to its owner.
The question is, are you going to create the reality that you want or the reality that they want?
I fucking told you, bro. I did this whole podcast piece and I told y'all that Meta was going to try to get us to become virtual versions of ourselves to then upload into the metaverse. Y'all said I was crazy. And I feel you, because that shit is crazy. And it's crazy to think about. But brothers and sisters, gaze thy eyes upon this. Live longer for 150 years in metaverse, but only if you are willing to leave, to permanently leave your physical body and become a fucking app. The Matrix is upon us. I've been told y'all this shit was real. Some of y'all might say, but that's cool. Yeah, it's cool, I guess, if you want to be controlled by the fucking app designers, if you want to live in a real life simulation. When I told y'all that we live in an alternate reality because they fucked around with the God particle, y'all laughed, but I don't even want to say I told you so, but I fucking told you so. It's right there for you. So yeah, man, y'all make your own decisions. Everybody that was like, oh, the government would never track us. Bro, listen to me. The majority of people in I'd say 65, so I hopefully will still be alive, will be allowed to see this. When people leave their physical avatars Right? That's what the movie be telling y'all. They be showing it to you. It's called predictive programming. They'll tell you what they're about to do. Few people kind of warn us. They laugh about it. Oh, y'all crazy. And bang. So this is about to happen. It's interesting to see. There are companies that are already fucking with it. I think it's Elon Musk. He has some shit called Neuralink, which connects your consciousness to the internet. Y'all cool with that? Because I'm not. And then I'll tell you some other interesting shit. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Elon Musk is now the biggest, most powerful shareholder in Twitter. So he's going to control information one way or another. And I'll leave it at that. Shit is crazy, though. Let me know what y'all think, man. Y'all down with this? What y'all trying to be an app forever? Because I'm certainly not. I'm trying to go into back to the source, man. The original source.
We always ask, where is the future going to take us? But the real question is, where are we going to take the future?
There are no closed doors, no walls.
Holy mackerel, this is unbelievable.
We may have brain surgeons in Edinburgh operating on patients in New Zealand.
You'll send emotions, feelings, memories.
Imagine a world where we are represented the way we want to be.
You know, in the future, it just feels like long distance won't be so distant.
There's a big frontier. Where do you want to go?
And we're just getting started.
Appreciate the past, utilize the present, but don't be afraid to create the future.
The question is, are you going to create the reality that you want or the reality that they want? You're going to create it no matter what. Are you going to create the reality that you want or the reality that they want? So unless you know the negative, you can't really understand the positive, and you can't create the positive since you don't know what you don't want. So you have to know what you don't want in order to make a choice. Now, this balance of having to know both sides is a little bit Star Wars-ish. You have the Jedi and you have the Sith. Now, the Jedi sacrifice themselves in order to help the universe, the galaxy, whatever. The Sith satisfy themselves. They don't sacrifice themselves. They believe in themselves and just doing their own stuff. So they believe in a selfish orientation. So what you have is the Sith willing to do all types of bad things in order to satisfy their selfish interests, and the Jedi willing to sacrifice themselves in order for the betterment of the galaxy, but they don't even know their own selfish interests. They don't know themselves. So they don't have a vision for what they think should be, because they're essentially mercenary force that's hired by the good guys, the Republic, and then the Sith are the selfish guys that are going in and battling it away. But nobody has balance. The whole point is, in order for you to create what you want, you have to have balance. You have to have the Sith as well as the Jedi both together within yourself. You have to be able to know what you want and know what you don't want. You have the good side and the bad side. This is what we call contrast. And the contrast, knowing the good as well as the bad, is absolutely necessary. It cannot be avoided. You can not only get the bright and not the dark. You have to have the contrast in order to create the reality that you want. Remember, you're always going to create a reality. The question is it a reality that you want or a reality that somebody else wants for you to have? Okay? Now, the channeled entities who say that say that you should simply not give any credence to the negative stuff are actually trying to control their audience to voluntarily stay within the prison system. Only knowing everything, positive and negative, gives someone the ability to navigate out of the negative situation and towards the positive situation that they themselves want. Pushing away the negative fears, now get this, Pushing away the negative fears and thoughts does nothing. Pushing away the negative fears and thoughts does nothing to eliminate those things from a person's timeline. You can't push those thoughts away and thus eliminate those things from your timeline. In fact, what it does is you're giving all that energy to the negative stuff that you're pushing away, and it actually helps manifest those things within your timeline. So if the negative ETs are saying, don't give any credence to the idea of reptilians and them doing bad things or whatever, just focus on the positive, you're actually helping to manifest all the negative stuff with the reptilians and everything else in your timeline. You're giving energy by pushing it away. Whatever you focus on in any way, even in a negative way, by pushing things away, you're giving focus to it. And so what you're doing is you're bringing that in. So you cannot look at it from the perspective of psychology. You cannot psychologically bury a bad thought and make it go away. Psychologists have known this for a very long time. Just think about it. You have a bad thought, something bad happened, a trauma happened in your life, bad experience, you try to bury it. What happens? That's the basis of psychosis. That's why people go to therapists. That's why people end up in mental hospitals. Bringing up all the bad stuff and then releasing it clearly is the only way to liberate yourself from those bad things. That's why people go and talk to a therapist. The therapist eventually helps navigate them through the medicine of talking to talk about all the bad things that happen until they're no longer deeply repressed, but they're finally out, and only then is the person free from those thoughts. So burying the thoughts, pushing them out, just doesn't work. Now listen, let's go political. There's wars going on right now. The big war in Ukraine with Russia invading Ukraine. Let's talk about dictators. All right, let's talk about dictators. This applies not just to individual psychology, but to what dictators do. Dictators try to control their populations. They try to control people by controlling what they think. That's an old story, an old tactic. They try to stop people from seeing the negative side of things. Now, does that ever make the negative stuff go away? Answer that question. Having dictators tell the populations they can't think certain thoughts, does that ever make the negative stuff go away? What kind of reality is being created? It's the reality that the dictator wants. Now, at this very current time, just so happens that it is illegal in Russia to discuss the war in Ukraine and to call it a war. So if you actually call it a war, you can actually go to prison. So it's illegal to talk about the war at all as a war, or even to call it a war. So the authorities do not want people to even think about the war as a war. They want people to think that it's a liberation exercise. So they put out some other information about it. Okay? Does this make the war any less terrible? If they tell people it's not a war, does that make it go away? Does it make it not a war? If they try to use propaganda to convince everybody it's not what it is, does that make the reality any different? So changing the thoughts to try to be positive when in fact something negative is going on does nothing at all to create a positive reality. It doesn't change the war. It doesn't. The war is the same, and forcing people to think that it is different from what it really is, it only helps the controllers continue the war and to do worse things. So propaganda is fully designed to enable the controllers to do worse things and to continue what they're doing. And this is the essence of authoritarian and totalitarian propaganda. That's what it is. That's what authoritarian and totalitarian propaganda is designed to do. Let's go full scale. Let's consider the job of Joseph Goebbels during the Nazi years in Germany. Now, Joseph Goebbels, he was the Reich Minister of Propaganda from 1933 to 1945 at the end of the war. And he guided his ministry to have control, total control over all media, arts, and information in Germany. He painted a rosy picture for what he was doing. Controlling what people know and think became his full-time job. By forcing people to not think certain things, making it illegal to think or talk about certain things, pushing all those things away. Now, only people who want to control you will tell you not to give credence to that which is negative. Now, the Nazis kept the reality of their concentration camps from a very large section of the German populace. Did that make the concentration camps go away? No, of course not. Did it make the German population eliminate the horrors of the concentration camps? No, of course not. What about the gas chambers? What about the ovens? Everything. Did it make the 11 million people who were killed go away? No, it didn't do any of that. Propaganda designed to create a way of thinking for people does nothing to stop the bad stuff from happening. The only thing it does is to enable those who are trying to control you to continue doing what they're doing. They want to continue getting away with it. So seeing the negative does not bind you. Seeing the negative stuff does not bind you. If you're a Jedi, you can't ignore the Sith, or you're going to eventually run into them and have a battle and end up dying. If you're a Sith, you can't ignore the Jedi. You're eventually going to run into them and have a battle and dying. You have to see both sides. Seeing the negative doesn't bind you. It doesn't prevent you from doing something positive. It sets you free from the control of the negative, and it sets you free from those people who are trying to control you. And then you then have the power to create a reality that you want. And that's the key. It's not power to control. It's not power to create your own reality. You're going to create your own reality no matter what. And I'm going to explain how that works with regard to physics in just a few moments. The real question is it going to be a reality that you want or that somebody else wants you to have? You see, manipulative people, ETs and others, they have figured out how to control what you think, how to control what kind of reality you're going to create. Because they want a slave force, they want a slave population, and they have to control the way that slave population thinks, because that's going to create the reality of that slave population. Don't you remember the African Americans when they were slaves back in the old slavery days in the United States? They were absolutely forbidden to learn how to read. The slavers didn't want them to know anything, because knowing things could set them free. Then they would have seen the reality of their situation, and that the slavers were no different than the African Americans that were enslaved. The only people who do not want you to see the negative are those people who are aligned with those who are doing the negative. And they want you to continue getting away with it. Now, you may have your favorite channel that you go to, your favorite channel entity that you want to go to and you go to see. As soon as you hear them say, don't give any credence to the negative side, the vibrations, don't think about the reptilians, focus on what you do want, that's the evidence that they're working for the reptilians, that they're working with the reptilians, that they're working with the oppressors, because there's nothing to stop them from knowing about it. So there should be nothing to stop you from knowing about it. Knowing about it isn't going to hurt you. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do the following translation. Whenever you hear something like this, do not give credence to the negative vibrations that you do not want to manifest in your life. Translate that. What it means is, do not think about what it means is, do not think about what I and my colleagues are doing so that we can continue doing it. That's the translation. So, do not give credence to the negative vibrations that you do not want to manifest in your life really means, do not think about what I and my colleagues are doing so that we can continue doing it. That's what it means. Now, if you choose to ignore the negative that surrounds you, then you will be a slave to those who do those negative things. And to be honest, it's what you deserve. If you believe you deserve better, and I believe you deserve better, then open your eyes to everything that is going on. See it clearly. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to bite you to know the negative. Then you will see reality, and you will be able to navigate to a reality that you really, honestly, truly prefer. People control you by limiting what you know, or by convincing you not to think about what they are doing. Now, we're going to get into the deep stuff now, the really deep stuff, the physics that explains why it works. This is the details, and this is what you need to know. This will give you the power over any ETs, over anybody that tries to control you.
The timekeepers have built quite the circus. And I see the clowns are playing their parts to perfection.
This afternoon, the Secretary General and Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, will witness the signing of a memorandum of understanding on a strategic partnership between the UN and the World Economic Forum, which outlines areas of cooperation to deepen engagement between the two institutions and to jointly accelerate the implementation of the 2030 Agenda. The 2030 Agenda. The 2030 Agenda.
You can't make this stuff up, you guys. Go look up The Nomad Soul. It's a video game from 1999. The video game is also known as Omicron. Guess who invented this game? Microsoft, owned by Bill Gates. And the video game was about soul-snatching demons.
It is interesting. You know what this game is about? It is about a some kind of government setup called Omicron, where devils were disguising to be the authorities in power and controlling these people like slaves. So one of these beings or characters in the game start to speak out. In this game, one of the characters spoke out to the people in Omicron and told them the following words, which is very scary. I'm like very shocked, okay?
The souls here are grey and withered. You can't get much power from them. The juiciest souls are in your dimension. As long as your soul is a prisoner in Omicron, you run the risk of being caught by a demon and thrown into the reservoir. The survival of your soul is at stake. Reshev and his corrupt government are lulling you to sleep in order to control you better. They have transformed you into puppets that are manipulated by X and the demons. Join the awakened ones and rise up to fight for your freedom. Together, we can win.
This sounded like pretty harrowing. This sounded like pretty scary about like what was going to happen in the future or something. Some people said, man, it's just so uncanny. Coincidentally, just matches up. It's like a scary prophecy. This video game was like prophesying of what would happen today. So that's what it looked like. That's what it felt like to the people. So, knowing that one, that's why with Omicron coming out and then Bill Gates, that's why there are people wondering about the elitists or the globalists in charge where all the bad stuff is going on. I wonder that all of this is part of a plan or a setup for something evil, and that people are truly being controlled and that they're puppets and that they really don't have freedom. Right? So that's the thing of the concern with Omicron. And then the video games seem to show a scary prediction on that one, just match coincidentally. So weird. Isn't that very weird? You have to admit that is very weird that it came out that way. Unless you have studied the Illuminati and occultists, that what they tend to do through elitists and globalists in power is that they always do things behind symbols, set up things behind the scenes where they're predicting what they're going to do in the future.
Let's go over the Secret Covenant, a plan that has been written for decades. An illusion it will be, so large, so vast, it will escape their perception. Those who will see it will be thought of as insane or conspiracy theorists. We will create separate fronts to prevent them from seeing the connection between us. We will behave as if we are not connected to keep the illusion alive. Our goal will be accomplished one drop at a time so as to never bring a suspicion upon ourselves. This will also prevent them from seeing the changes as they occur. We will always stand above the relative field of their experience, for we know the secrets of the absolute. We will work together always, and we will remain bound by blood and secrecy. Death will come to he who speaks. We will keep the lifespan short and their minds weak while pretending to do the opposite. We will use our knowledge of science and technology in subtle ways so they will never see what is happening. We will use soft metals, aging acceleration, and sedatives in food and water, also in the air. They will be blanketed by poisons everywhere they turn. The soft metals will cause them to lose their minds. We will promise to find a cure from our many fronts, yet we will feed them more poison. The poisons will be absorbed through their skin and mouths. They will destroy their minds and reproductive system. From all this, their children will be born dead, and we will conceal this information. The poisons will be hidden in everything that surrounds them and what they drink, eat, breathe, and wear. We must be ingenious in dispensing the poisons, for they can see far. We will teach them that the poisons are good, with fun images and musical tones. Those they look up to will help. We will enlist them to push our poisons. They will see our products used in film and will grow accustomed to them and will never know their true effects. When they give birth, we will inject poisons into the blood of their children and convince them it's for their help. We will start early on. When their minds are young, we will target their children and what children love most, sweet things. When their teeth decay, we will fill them with metals that will kill their mind and steal their future. When their ability to learn has been affected, we will create medicine that will make them sicker and create other diseases, for which we will create yet more medicine. We will render them docile and weak before us with our power. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to go through all of these, but here is some more. They will grow more depressed, slow, and obese, and when they come to us for help, we will give them more poison. Their minds will belong to us, and they will do what we say. If they refuse, we shall find ways to implement mind-altering technology into their lives. We will use fear as our weapon. Our families must never mix with theirs. Our blood must be pure always, for it is the way. We will make them kill each other when it suits us. Pause and read the rest. Pause and read the rest. And pause and read the rest. When all is in place, the reality we have created for them will be their poison.
All right, be good. If you can't be good.
Don't get caught.
Love you guys.
Love you too.
Love you too, Mom.
Okay, who can give me the derivative of X?
What's going on?
Did you guys see that? Oh my god.
Oh my god. What's happening?
At 1:07 a.m., the Odyssey satellite received images of an object moving past Mars.
It's right over us.
I want to see.
I didn't know it then, but that was the last normal day of my life.
We have reason to believe there's an imminent threat to this location.
All right, stay with your sister.
The waves have begun.
It started. Coordinated attacks on metropolitan areas.
The first wave knocked out all the power. Then the second wave hit. An earthquake strong enough to shake the entire planet.
Cassie! Okay, I got you.
With the third wave, disease spread across the world. By the fourth wave, they were among us.
The others have the ability to inhabit human hosts. They could be anywhere.
We can't trust anyone anymore.
Cassie!
The others took my brother.
And I'm gonna go get him.
You will learn to think, move, and fight like soldiers.
I want to be ready.
You won't get very far on your own. Grab the gun and snap my hand away. Good.
How are we supposed to fight them if we don't even know what they are?
What are you? They took everything from me.
My sister's coming.
Sam! This is our world.
This is our home.
Our only choice
is to take it back.
Drop it!
I know you're human.
How?
Because if you were one of them, you would have shot me already.
Implants are a very versatile technology that can be used for many different things. And right now it's very convenient to have a COVID passport always accessible on your implant. So in case your phone runs out of battery, it's always accessible to you.
Olha só, o chip na mão da mulher. Ela abre a porta. Ela paga o trem. Ó, vendo aí? Só passa na mão. Na França, na Inglaterra e na Alemanha. Ó. Microchip. E tá os dados da pessoa tudinho no celular. Celular acompanhado do chip. Olha aí, ó. Tá vendo? Olha só. Olha o tamanho dele. Olha aqui, o cara colocou. Esse povo é muito imbecil, gente do céu. Olha aqui, ó. Ele fica aqui, ó. Tá vendo aqui onde ele é localizado? Ó. Logo, logo a humanidade inteira vai estar com isso daí.
This is a slime robot, fully capable of moving in any direction through tiny spaces, around objects, and even grabbing onto things tightly. And it's completely created and controlled by humans. This slime is truly a groundbreaking discovery and creation that could change the future of robotics, medicine, and humanity. Yes, the future of humanity may be impacted by a magnetic turd.
We are the guardians of the Looking Glass. We are a group of former intelligence officers and military officials who have come together to release classified information about future events to come. Our knowledge comes from our work on the Looking Glass artifact, first discovered in Iraq, along with other discoveries in the 1990s. During this time, the artifact was activated by the US military and connected to computers. We were able to see dozens of future timelines and the convergence or singularities that led to two possible outcomes by the year 2030. In one outcome, humanity awakens and the current order is dismantled. An event then occurs, and instead of this event being negative, it is a positive one. In the other outcome, the current structure remains in place, and nuclear war takes place, along with many horrible events. Then the event occurs, and instead of being a positive event, it is a negative one. You may wonder how one event can either be positive or negative. You will learn, and it will make perfect sense to you once it is explained. This event is a cosmic event, something that happens in our solar system. Without the intervention by the current power structure, this event would be incredibly positive. But due to the vaccines and a secondary plan being developed, the event will instead be turned into a nightmare. We will explain more in a secondary video, which is being released soon, titled 2030 and the Event, if you want to learn more about it. Now, let's move on to the current timelines we are facing and how we must act to change these outcomes. Based on what we learned from the Looking Glass artifact, we concluded that we must release these videos at this time so that the horrifying events that are about to unfold can be changed. Each week, we will release a new video. Each week, you will learn of new specific timeline changes so that you can work to change the future outcome. We have been waiting many years to finally release this information. Our video releases are specifically timed based on what the Looking Glass artifact revealed about how to change future events. What we were able to see was that our videos must be released now. Not in the past, not in the future, but on these specific dates, starting in March 2022. We were also able to see that the events can only be changed by the actions of those watching these videos. If these videos are spread and shared by thousands of people, the events can be changed. If the videos are not spread and shared, then the events cannot be changed, and the most negative timeline is then solidified and set in stone. The Looking Glass artifact showed this to us, that it is dependent on the actions of others to change the outcomes. Your work and help to spread this message then becomes vital. It will be up to you what happens.
The quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined.
The very act of measuring or observing, the electron decided to act differently. As though it was aware it was being watched.
For our first video, we will start with one future date. Future videos we will post will deal with new dates and new events. What follows is the most recent, most important event we must act to change. The date of the first event is April 18th, 2022.
And there you are. You popped up for us. It's so great to see you. The Daily Mail has a very interesting story that's saying that Vladimir Putin essentially may be running out of bullets, that he might have a week and a half, 2 weeks max. He's losing warplanes, tanks, all the rest of it. He obviously went into this thinking he was going to bulldoze his way through Ukraine. He's obviously caused a lot of destruction. Don't want to minimize the fact there's over 2 million refugees. But this has not gone as well as Vladimir Putin expected.
I don't buy it for a second, Ed, I'll be honest with you. I really think that there's so much misinformation. We've never really seen anything like it. I mean, I've been covering wars now for 35 years, and I have never seen people with their nails done in the Ukrainian flag, right? I mean, we're being corralled into this box where we either have to hate Vladimir Putin and believe everything evil that's said about him and love Ukraine, and there's no in between. And that reminds me a lot of you're either, you know, a white supremacist or you go with the Democrat narrative on everything under the sun. So Vladimir Putin knew exactly what he was doing when he went into Ukraine. The Russian military isn't perfect. They, for example, I've spoken to multiple defense specialists and intelligence specialists from a Defense Intelligence Agency who've studied the Russian military for years. They do have a difficulty mounting complex air operations because they do very little training hours in comparison to, for example, the United States air assets, right, our fighter jet pilots. But Russia is not struggling. What Russia has done from the very beginning has been very strategic. They didn't go straight to Kiev. They went to all those bioweapons laboratories that are scattered all over the country. Some of them they built, so they know where they are. They've known where they are since the Soviet Union, because under the Defense Threat Reduction Program, we went in after the fall of the Soviet Union and supposedly turned those facilities from bioweapons labs into public health labs. Although, you know, these days it's hard to believe anything that our leaders tell us because they've lied about COVID, they lied about Russia collusion, they lied about the Ukraine impeachment trial, and there's so much more going on in Ukraine that nobody is talking about. You see such dishonesty when it comes to the history of Ukraine. You see dishonesty when it comes to the Azov Battalion, which is funded by the U.S. and NATO. I mean, you can find pictures of them online holding up the NATO flag and the swastika at the same time. Their own emblem contains the black sun of the occult, which was a Nazi SS emblem. And it also contains the sideways, you know, lightning insignia of the SS. I mean, this is on throughout the Ukrainian military. You can see that black sun of the occult on their body armor, even on the female soldiers who are paraded in front of the world as being, you know, such an example of Ukraine's independence and spirit and nobility. Even they are wearing the black sun of the occult. And, you know, the White House wants you to believe, well, this doesn't matter, it's just a small number of troops. It's not true. The Azov Battalion has been murdering its way through eastern Ukraine.
Yeah.
We don't want to admit this. This was why Crimea voted for independence. This is why Crimea wanted to be with Russia. Because we in the media, in the Western media and in the West, won't acknowledge the reality of what's gone on. Western Ukraine backed the Nazis. It was a headquarters for the Nazi SS. The CIA under Allen Dulles actually gave immunity from prosecution to the Nazis of Ukraine from the Nuremberg trials. So there's a long history of the United States and our intelligence agencies funding and arming Nazis in Ukraine. These are not like new neo-Nazi groups that sprung up. These are the actual Nazis from the Second World War, who, if you go back to the Nuremberg trials, said that they were planning for a 1,000-year Reich. And so you have to really wonder as you look at this, when you know that the CIA sponsored the color revolution in Ukraine in 2013 and 14, that they selected Ukraine's leaders, go to Victoria Nuland's leaked phone conversation where she and the U.S. ambassador are deciding who can lead Ukraine.
I mean, there's as much
Right.
interference here as you could possibly imagine before
Right,
you
and Laura-
even get to Hunter Biden, Nancy Pelosi, John Kerry,
Mhm.
and Mitt Romney, and all of their children who are employed, who earn millions from Ukrainian
You are
gas
pointing,
companies.
yeah, you are pointing, pardon me, to a real credibility crisis for our leaders. I want to let Karen Turk jump in.
Yeah,
and talk.
I wanted to bring up the fact that President Zelensky is Jewish, and I don't know exactly how this factors in, but there's some very interesting points in what you're saying. And looking at this, you could think it's political theatrics. You made a very good point at the beginning that you think that Putin is in control. And I actually want to play something that Jen Psaki said, because it seems that the White House is actually echoing that sentiment. Watch this.
Well, the end game is really a question for President Putin. We have completely crushed his economy. We have provided military assistance, humanitarian assistance to the Ukrainians, enabling them to fight back for far longer than the Russian leadership anticipated. And again, he has to determine what the path forward looks like for him. Thanks, everyone.
He's determining what this looks like, and I think that's a lot of what you said, Laura. I'd love to get your thoughts on that, what you just watched.
What troubles me about the moment that we're in is that we have such a selective and a narrow reading of history. President Zelensky may be Jewish, but he's not the only one in this who suffered during the Second World War, whose ancestors suffered, right? I mean, look at Putin. How many relatives did he lose in the siege of St. Petersburg? People don't know their history. They don't know what made Vladimir Putin. And I'm not I'm not defending him. I don't need to defend Vladimir Putin. My job as a journalist is to try to understand what is the truth here. I don't like being lied to. And we're being lied to on an epic scale. When we're told your only choice is you have to be 100% with Zelensky, who's a puppet, who you can find on the internet in black stilettos and leather pants, with shirtless, doing a spoof Dancing with the Stars kind of entertainment video. That's a mock of a Ukrainian group that does this kind of satanic, occult type of music video. And I mean, Zelensky was selected, like so many of our leaders. And honestly, with big tech and with election fraud these days, we don't know how many leaders all around the world have been selected for us and weren't actually voted in. But what we do know is that there are increasing problems with technology and the digitization of our world. Because look at what's happening with COVID. Look at what has happened globally. We are fighting the same battles all over the world. To pretend that this war is about Russia and Ukraine is just a barefaced lie. If Putin has been warning for 15 years that he is not going to stand by while the globalists take over the world, build bioweapons facilities and whatever else they're doing in Ukraine, Ukrainian oligarchs. Ukraine has been a center of money laundering for many of the leaders in this country. For how long? Billions of US dollars have been laundered through Ukraine, and we say nothing about it. These are our tax dollars. I mean, before the impeachment trial, had you ever heard of anyone in the United States, I mean, us bringing in foreign governments to the White House for anti-corruption training? I mean, does nobody question these things? Why do we not question them? We have an idiot like Lieutenant Colonel Vindman who goes at the impeachment trial and sits there as a lieutenant colonel. He didn't even make colonel. And he's telling the President of the United States what his policy should be. You have a traitor in the form of Maria Yovanovitch, who was Obama's ambassador, who's telling Ukrainian government officials, don't listen to the will of the American people. Don't listen to the election results. We are the true leaders of America. I mean, and then people object when the woman isn't even fired. She's given a cushy job for life at Georgetown University at the expense of the U.S. taxpayer. And we're told that the President of the United States cannot say to his foreign counterparts, that we want you to look into something. But Joe Biden can withhold as much aid as he wants to. I mean, there's so much hypocrisy and dishonesty here, and Ukraine is at the center of it all. Go back to Russia collusion. Go to Alexandra Chalupa. Go to Eric Karamella, the whistleblower who went to work for Adam Schiff, who wasn't really a whistleblower, and all those corrupt people in the deep state. And you know what? The deep state isn't a theory. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's an actual deep state. Look up the SES, the Senior Executive Service, because when that bureaucracy was ushered into law in the United States of America, that's when we got a bunch of unelected bureaucrats pulling the strings behind the scenes. And these are the people that keep lying to us.
Absolutely. And pardon me, we've got a live chat where we're streaming on Getter, for example, and I'm watching it as you're talking. People are talking about how you're dropping truth bombs and you're a real journalist. And I know that, having worked alongside you for many, many years when you're at CBS and many other places. And maybe they didn't want to hear the truth, but you're dropping those truth bombs now. Unfortunately, we've got to hit a break right now. We'd love to have you back in the days ahead. We love having you on. Lara Logan, thanks for joining us on Real America's Voice.
Thank you so much.
Guardians, it is time for a very important update. Because of your work, the April 18th attack was stopped. You may have noticed in the news that there were some strange events that led up to that date in New York City. These events were partly related to the planned attack and also related to some timeline disruptions that took place because CERN was reactivated. Our sources in the US and European governments told us that our videos reached such a wide audience that they had no choice but to change plans. We have asked our sources if they plan to delete our videos, and we have been told that is being considered. They are extremely upset with what we are doing. Their plans now lie in using CERN to change the looking glass data so that the timelines more favor their negative outcome than the positive one. They are experimenting and tinkering in any way they can to bring up their percentages of success. The next event, which we posted about, is May 20th. We have warned the Raindrop Group about what is to come, and we are working closely with them to save Dr. Wu's life. They have been cooperative so far, and once we showed them our data and proof, they knew we were telling the truth. We have also heard many Guardians want to help them in their own mission, which is going to affect the timeline and possibly save Dr. Wu's life. With April 18th prevented, and with our hope May 20th is stopped as well, the next event to come happens in July of 2022. This event cannot be described yet. We can only warn you, it will impact the lives of billions of people, and the most impact will be felt in the United States and Canada. This event to come, in July, will harm far more people than the previous two and cause great distress in the lives of many. It is of great concern to us. We must do all we can to prevent the May 20th event, and if we fail, we will not succeed at all. But if we do succeed, we must then focus on the July event, which we will post a video about. The plot is to release a new pathogen to justify a new vaccine. The vaccine is designed to interact with the existing vaccines and graphene oxide, now coursing through the bodies of billions of people. It is also designed to be introduced to the second and third world through a new campaign that will dose the rest of the planet that did not get vaccinated.
Biden wants to inoculate as many people as possible. So you have to get an annual shot. I mean, it hasn't been formally announced yet. They don't want to rile everyone up. The drug companies, the food companies, the vaccine companies, they pay us hundreds of millions of dollars a year to hire and keep the reviewers to approve their products. If they can get every person required at an annual vaccine, that is a recurring return of money going into their company.
So how do you know it's already getting approved?
Well, they're not going to, just from everything I've heard, they're not going to not approve it.
Meet Christopher Cole, an executive officer at the FDA with over 20 years' experience who claims to be directly involved in the approval process of the various COVID vaccines.
I think what's going to happen is it's going to be a gradual thing. School's going to mandate it.
Why do they need the third one?
Well, the same reason that you or I would need the third one. So the 3 will bolster your system. And then there will be an annual, eventually an annual, just like the flu shot.
For the toddlers?
Well, for everyone.
Okay, so the toddlers too then. We'll have to get it
Probably.
Okay.
I don't completely agree with the process.
What do you mean you don't agree with the process?
Well, I mean, they don't have all the tests aren't there. So I agree with the thing that it is important to inoculate them. But you can't provide the parent as much a surety as you normally want to. It's an EUA for all age groups, all designations, and then you have to get approved by specific age groups based on the study.
Do you think it's really an emergency for the toddlers?
Well, they're all approved under an emergency. The efficacy data doesn't have to be as high. The standard is on emergency use authorizations is that it does more benefit than harm.
I thought their cases weren't that high for 6 month to 4-year-olds.
They're not, but because it's related to COVID, it's under that approval process.
The graphene oxide is not designed to kill, but rather death is a side effect, in some. Its true purpose is to interact with the solar event, the event to occur in 2030. The graphene oxide will cause this event to be a horrifying one, rather than a positive one. If one is vaccinated at all, they will experience not only a physical, but also a multidimensional annihilation. When the event takes place, to a point their souls, or extra-dimensional essences, will be severely damaged and vibrational frequencies reattuned so that they align with the most negative, dark energies existing within the realm of Earth.
Judge, if they keep testing for different strains of coronavirus, we're going to be locked down for the rest of our existence. I had cancer. My oncologist is a specialist in bone cancer. And every oncologist who deals with bone cancer identifies hundreds of coronaviruses inside of our bones. They've created a problem that can never actually be solved. So they can justify whatever it is they want to do. And if you look around you, everything is falling apart. Even the vote audits are going ahead. Durham is moving ahead. Over time, people can see that the vaccines have nothing to do with Trump or left or right. Many black people don't want to get vaccinated. Okay. You cannot justify losing 3,000 to 5,000 Border Patrol agents, 12,000 pilots, for something that has the death rate of flu. And even if this is lethal, Americans have the right under the Constitution to their civil liberties, and they can only be suspended temporarily for it to be lawful. This is not lawful.
That's not a real person. That's not a real person. Look at the fingers, dog. Nobody's finger stretches like that. Don't do that. Yeah, no.
A reminder to question everything, especially events covered by the news.
We ask our guardians to remain vigilant. There are many agents of the negative forces who pretend to belong to the community of light bearers and truth seekers. They are easy to spot because they always spread negativity. They cannot help themselves, even if they try to be positive, it does not last for long. Their hearts are full of darkness and hate, and it is easy to spot, but some are very clever.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If in the 22nd century a book will be written about the entrepreneur of the 21st century, I'm sure, or even of the 20th century, I'm sure that the person who will foremost come to the mind of those historians is certainly Bill Gates. Bill, the floor is yours.
I'm the foremost expert on this virus.
It's a pretty serious situation.
You bet your ass it's a serious situation.
The Stearns flu has now been declared a national pandemic.
What the hell did you put in that vaccine?
Created a flu that sparked the demand for a vaccine that doesn't work. After everyone in the country is vaccinated.
And the world?
He'll have murdered millions.
Nope, you don't have it. And we have taken that virus and embedded it in the vaccine of the Stearns flu.
I knew it. I knew it. created a panic, and now everybody's begging for the vaccine.
No. Demanding it. With all the entitlement of a first world country.
Yes. And now we have exactly what we want. Hundreds of millions of Americans lining up, offering us their arms, and letting us give them our creation.
I'm pretty sure when every vaccinated person starts dying, they'll trace it back to undetectable virus or not.
What we are doing is far bigger than death.
You're killing people.
I told you it does not kill. That was the amazing epiphany we had. We didn't have to kill to accomplish our goal. We intend to stop human reproduction for 3 generations. The busy, endless global assembly line of babies will grind to a halt.
You're sterilizing people?
Uh-huh. In the first 5 years, we'll start to see major birth rate declines as teenagers vaccinated today hit their childbearing years. I love people.
How? Why would
Doing what our government or citizenry is too spoiled or self-indulgent to do. We are saving ourselves from ourselves.
Halting overpopulation.
100 years ago, the global population was 1.7 billion. 2011, it reached
7 billion.
People live too long, die less often, fuck too much, shit out babies like...
In 2050, they say it's going to plateau.
It'll be too late to save an Earth that bears any resemblance to a world we actually want to live in. We have to live modestly. We have to live selflessly. And as you know, we're not that good at it.
You can't just decide people won't have babies
I
because...
can and I did. Think of me as the stern parent who tells the children they can't play with the family gun.
Tougher penalties for unvaccinated customers who target hospitality staff.
Anyone that is spitting, coughing or sneezing or threatens to do so, they can be issued with an infringement notice.
Finally, there is consequences and we got a little bit more protection for our staff.
From December 17, when the vaccine mandate takes effect, fines will range from $1,300 to more than $13,000 or 6 months behind bars.
Police will be patrolling and conducting compliance.
Right now, and has been, is offering a 20% bonus payout to all hospitals to choose remdesivir for all Medicare-aged patients, and then they will pay 20% on the entire hospital bill if they just use that one drug with all Medicare-aged patients. It is on CMS.gov's website right now. Chiquita Brooks Lesor should also be in court. She's the administrator of CMS. Why are they bribing all hospitals in this nation with a 20% bonus payout for the one and only drug supposedly approved by the FDA and recommended by the NIH for COVID-19 treatment in hospitals? Can anyone explain to me why Medicare has to bribe our hospitals to use the only drug they're allowed to use for COVID-19? That's known to cause kidney failure, heart failure, and liver failure. They're being incentivized not only for using remdesivir in these COVID protocols, hospitals are being paid, not a joke, to PCR test every patient that walks through the door. And the percentages of those that they actually do it for, no matter why you went to the hospital, you could sprain your ankle and walk in there. They're PCR testing everybody to get their numbers up. And then the FDA or the federal government is paying out a bribe every month for the percentages of PCR tests. Then they're being given a 20% bonus for every single, not a joke, every single positive COVID-19 diagnosis they give in the hospital every month. Then there's the 20% incentive for treatment using remdesivir for the Medicare age group on the entire hospital bill. Then they're incentivized for ventilating. Then they're incentivized even further for every COVID-19 death in the hospital. Upwards of $9,000 a case per month. You tell me.
Wow. I'm on a roll today. I'm back with another one. So guess what Canada just came out with? Yeah. Do you want to know why they came out with that? Do you want to understand? Do you want to know why? Watch this.
It holds it together and it allows it to stay 100% in that structure that's present on the surface of the virus.
The shape of the coronavirus spike protein before the virus meets our cells is what triggers the most protective antibody response. So Keith must make the spike protein in the lab, locking it into exactly the same shape by adding another protein that acts a bit like a clamp. And that protein is a tiny fragment of HIV.
So to everybody out there that's taken all these jabs, segregated family members, told their kids they can't play with this kid because this kid didn't take the vaccine, maybe it's time that you stop wasting so much energy on us. Maybe it's time that you stop wasting so much energy on worrying about COVID. And maybe start worrying about your immune system. I didn't put that in your body. I didn't make it. I didn't put HIV in it. And I sure as fuck didn't put it in my body. So maybe it's time to switch energies, guys. Instead of hating freedom and hating the people that are fighting for freedom and hating the purebloods, maybe you should start hating the person that put that in your body. Good luck.
Now, why didn't they do that trial? They didn't do the trial because they knew I was right. They knew that it was going to cause death. Fauci knew that this was going to kill people. Fauci is a serial killer, and he should be brought up for crimes against humanity. Fauci has killed more people with his and Gates with their trials all over the world, probably than Adolf Hitler. You're watching a cabal collapse. I was dead wrong, Christina. I was dead wrong. The vaccine did not increase the death rate 5-fold over 10 years. I was dead wrong. The vaccine increased the death rate 25-fold in 10 months. Our entire government is corrupted. I mean, it's infiltrated with people that all they want to do is take bribe money and get rich. So I have zero trust of the government, the FDA, the CDC. They're a bunch of liars and crooks. And that's extended to the medical journals as well. I mean, now we have the own VAERS data says there's 20,000 deaths, and that's not even in a year. And if you take the underreported factor of Jessica Rose, you're looking at 800,000 dead from the vaccine. And that's a conservative estimate. Now, what does it tell every American, everybody? Number one, there's no physician or nurse in the United States that should ever be trusted again by any patient.
Wow.
We have no more patient relationship. The patient-physician, patient-nurse relationship has been completely destroyed because we're under a gag order. Number one. Number two, informed consent is completely null and void. No patient should ever believe anybody in the hospitals or the healthcare professions. They shouldn't believe. We've lost all of our credibility because you can't give honest, informed consent when a nurse or physician have a gag order on. You can't do it. It's impossible. Fauci is the most eloquent, brilliant, pathological, psychotic liar I've ever met in my life. Nobody can touch him.
Wow.
And I believe that he's under the guise of DARPA because nobody will ever touch him. You know, there's mass collusion and quid pro quo. It is no longer about saving lives. It's about, Fauci is all about making money and getting money. That's what Bill Gates is about. RealNotRare.com. It is an incredible website that has a litany of vaccine-injured people. And these vaccine-injured people are mocked. Their lives have been completely destroyed. The cartel, including the healthcare, the physicians, the hospitals, the three-letter agencies, the mainstream media, mock them, deride them, kick them out of the ERs, tell them they're fraudulent, take away their platforms, don't even let them tell their stories. They're banned from social media. They're banned from everything. So this site, realnotrare.com, lets them tell their story. And so my beautiful bride, who is an attorney, a brilliant attorney, she would be going through this, and she would send me all the cases that were really meaningful, and I would post them on LinkedIn. And I would, on every single post, I would accuse the cartel of saying, this is how you treat the people that you've injured. You deride them, you mock them, you take away their voice, you throw them under the bus, and you've destroyed their lives, and you don't even give them a platform to tell their stories. So, and I would go on and say, this is the fault of you, the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology, the American Board of Medical Specialties, and the Federation of State Medical Boards, because you are responsible for forcing physicians to not go against your narrative.
The reason we are here today in this room with H5N1, highly pathogenic influenza, and we're not in this room discussing so many of the other gain of function research that we do.
NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain of function research.
There were studies done by two NIH, NIAID funded investigators, Ryan Fouché and Yoshi Kawaoka, in which H5N1, a strain from Indonesia and a strain from Vietnam, were altered in a gain of function.
I will repeat again, the NIH and NIAID categorically has not funded gain of function research.
And integral to that study has always been the issue of gain of function research, not only for influenza, but essentially for all infectious diseases research. Now, there are a few ways to look at gain of function research.
I don't know how many times I can say it, Madam Chair. We did not fund gain of function research.
Here I am, here I am. Good. Well, how are you today, sir? Very well, I say, sir. Run away, run away.
Highly effective, virtually 100% efficacious.
Listen, y'all. Look, watch, read. Highly effective, highly effective, highly effective, highly effective, highly effective, highly effective. Keep watching. 100% effective. Really? Okay. That was early on. 100%? 99%, 98%, 97, 96, 95, 94, 93, 92, and 91. Oh, this can't be real. This is crazy. Oh, man. 78%, 76%, 75.
Augenblick bitte. Christian. Christian.
Ribeirão Vermelho. ¿Sabe por qué?
Que no hay casi gente, entonces, por más que no tengan turno, van a poder ser. Novedad, volvemos en un ratito. Perdón, Claudio, perdón, Claudio, perdón. Cerrame. ¿Qué pasó? ¿Qué pasó? No.
I wanted to anyway.
Yeah. Okay. How long do these last for? Generally. Varies.
varies. Sometimes it's 5 seconds like that one. The longest was 20 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
But there's no real big break. It just keeps
going.
It'll stop and then...
Yeah. Do you feel like you can't concentrate properly? Is it affecting your thoughts?
I feel like I'm forgetting stuff.
No hallucinations?
No, nothing like that.
No, that's okay.
Really wanted for Christmas was a local vaccine, but
the University of Queensland vaccine will not be able to proceed.
50 million planned doses scrapped after triggering false positive results for HIV.
As in science, things don't always go right. It's certainly a tough day for the team.
The UQ vaccine applied a molecular clamp closing the coronavirus spikes using an HIV protein which falsely triggered infection markers.
Everybody who had the vaccine did show some level of false positive result.
One of them, Mel Stott.
I can totally understand where they're coming from, but I still have no concerns about my health or anybody else's health.
The vaccine was proving effective in trials and the participants were at no risk, but
the risk to vaccine confidence was the principal issue here.
Vaccine expert Professor Nikolai Petrovsky says he raised the alarm early.
Our feeling was it was too experimental a technology to be rolled out.
No warnings were ignored at all.
Professor Murphy says the risk of false positives was always known but considered small.
Unfortunately, it just became a bigger problem than anyone had anticipated.
We can return to Plan A in England and allow Plan B regulations to expire. As a result, from the start of Thursday next week, mandatory certification will end. Organisations can, of course, choose to use the NHS COVID Pass voluntarily, but we will end the compulsory use of COVID status certification in England. From now on, the government is no longer asking people to work from home. And people should now speak to their employers about arrangements for returning to the office. And having looked at the data carefully, the Cabinet concluded that once regulations lapse, the government will no longer mandate the wearing of face masks anywhere. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, from tomorrow we will no longer require face masks in classrooms, and the Department for Education will shortly remove national guidance on their use in communal areas. In the country at large, we will continue to suggest the use of face coverings in enclosed or crowded spaces, particularly when you come into contact with people you don't normally meet, but we will trust the judgment of the British people and no longer criminalise anyone who chooses not to wear one. The government will also ease restrictions further on visits to care homes, and my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, will set out plans in the coming days. Mr. Speaker, as we return to Plan A, the House will know that some measures still remain, including those on self-isolation.
According to our data, if the April 18th event is prevented, the next date of an event that must be prevented is May 20th. On this date, an operation will occur out of the public eye, never reported in the media. This operation will take place in Southeast Asia and involve the assassination of a former Chinese military scientist. This event, if it takes place, ensures the negative outcome occurs. The name of the scientist is Dr. Winston Wu. We, as guardians of the Looking Glass, have already made attempts to warn Dr. Wu of the upcoming attempt on his life. Our data shows that, no matter how many times we try to warn this man of his fatal outcome, the event does not change. Even if he takes steps to protect himself, it is not enough. Part of the reason for this is that the negative forces have the same data we have, and they can anticipate our warnings and circumvent them. As a result, we determined the only way to prevent his death is by the actions of viewers who share the information. Once broadly shared, it becomes apparent in the timeline data that the event can be prevented. The negative forces change plans upon their plans being publicly disseminated and revealed. This is the case for preventing many events. Once a plan, or date, is revealed and enough public awareness is made, the event can be stopped. But if not enough people are made aware of the date, then it cannot be stopped. This took place on September 11, 2001. There had been some prior warnings, in previous months and years, of this date. But the information was not disseminated widely enough. A former CIA asset and infiltrator, by the name of Jeff Swedenborg, had made numerous attempts to warn people of this date, but his warnings were ignored. The event eventually came to pass, without any interruption. Dr. Wu's work and project, which is almost entirely unknown at this time, is critical to stopping the negative outcome and instead bringing about the positive outcome. This is why the negative forces are specifically concerned about him and targeting him. Dr. Wu's project is called Raindrop. Through his work, using quantum computing, he is able to do great damage to the European power structure in the coming years. His project is currently underway and will reach completion in May, and from there, his work begins to expand all over the world. He begins spending vast amounts of money to destroy the current world order. The people involved in his project, who are all over the world, also help to fulfill his vision, and many others join him to bring down the current power structure. He is being targeted for elimination, and if nothing is done, he will be killed on May 20, 2022. This leads to the cessation of his project, the confiscation of his work, his funds, and the arrests of those involved. His project is destroyed, and the negative timeline is then solidified and cannot be altered from that point forward. His work is also essential in disrupting the operations of the Large Hadron Collider, or CERN. If his life can be saved, he goes on to continue his work, and in doing so, prevent multiple horrific events that have been planned by the negative power structure. If we can prevent the April 18 attack and forestall the nuclear war, an economic collapse still happens in late 2022, when America will descend into chaos. Americans will be desperate for food, basic services, even water. Dr. Wu's work brings financial relief for many. In this time, followers of Dr. Wu will be given tens or even hundreds of millions in other currencies and in cryptocurrencies, which will still retain value in currencies like the euro. His work saves the lives of many Americans who are able to use those funds to still buy things and escape the chaos. The negative forces are able to see all of this as well, so they have planned to assassinate Dr. Wu on May 20, 2022. If this occurs, his work is destroyed, and he has no positive impact at all on the devastating events to come. This ensures, to the highest degree of certainty, that the negative singularity in 2030 takes place and cannot be prevented. All of our data shows that for us to succeed in preventing the negative outcome in 2030 and singularity, Dr. Wu's life must be saved and his work must continue. Even if the economic collapse occurs or nuclear war, if Dr. Wu survives, there still remains a chance to prevent the negative outcome. Our data shows that by the end of 2029, entering into 2030, Dr. Wu and his project must be operating for the positive outcome to succeed. It is determined that his work using his quantum computer against CERN is one of the most critical aspects of disrupting the negative outcome. Our data clearly shows that the only way to save his life is for each person to disseminate and spread this information and to support Dr. Wu and his Raindrop project.
Quit my job, flipped off the boss, took my name off the payroll. Screw you, man.
Everyone to know that I want to first of all thank Justin Trudeau because he tried to separate black people from white people. He tried to separate the masked from the unmasked. He tried to separate the vaccinated from the unvaccinated. And I'm going to tell you what you did, Justin Trudeau. You brought everybody together. This country has never seen so much unity between the United States, Canada, and us. We've never seen anything like this. Right. Thank you, Justin. Right on. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. Yeah. Hallelujah.
I'm a trans-vaccinated person. This is my story.
What is a trans-vaccinated person?
A trans-vaccinated person, it's someone who was born into the wrong body. I was born into a non-vaccinated person body, and I knew at a very young age that I was meant to be a vaccinated person. So now I identify as a vaccinated person, and my preferred pronouns are vax and V.
How do you become a trans-vaccinated person?
So you don't have to go through any hormone treatments or hormone blockers, and you don't even have to take the vaccines or any booster shots. Just like how transsexuals can transform, all you have to do is change your status on your government documentations. Just like how you can change your gender for your birth certificate or your driver license, you can also change your status for your vaccine passport.
Why did you become a trans-vaccinated person?
I wanted to be able to go to restaurants, go to movies, go to bars, just like everyone else. And the Democrats has done a very great job in providing a safe space for people who are vaccinated. Just like what they did back in the days with like a color restroom and a non-color restroom, or like the restaurant for color people and restaurant for non-color people, or the bus for color people and bus for non-color people. They separated people by color, and just like now, they're separating people by your vaccine passport status. Also, just like the 1940s Germany, when everyone had a identification card and all the Jews had a J, literally a J, written on their identification card, and they were denied with any type of service.
What is your message to all the unvaccinated people?
I know I'm not alone out there. I know a lot of people feel like me, and I just want to tell you guys that it is never too late to come out of your big closet, and you can embrace who you are. If you feel like you have been born into the wrong body, you can always identify as a trans-vaccinated person. And this community is all about pride.
Great-great-granddaddy of wacky quantum weirdness is entanglement. If time reversal symmetry destroys the notion of time, then entanglement crushes our experience of space. Two objects, two electrons created together, are entangled. Send one to the other side of the universe. Now, do something to one, and the other responds instantly. Instantly. So, either information is traveling infinitely fast, or, in reality, they are still connected. They are entangled. And since everything was entangled at the moment of the Big Bang, that means everything is still touching. Space is just the construct that gives the illusion that there are separate objects. Are we far enough down the rabbit hole yet?
You picked up the Tesseract breaking reality. I want you to help us fix it.